crashing down this year is literally because of the limited schedule they play. They may not be able to play that big dog that exposes them as not being as good as everyone thinks they look by the record alone. In Wisconsin, I'm sorry to Wisconsin fans. I've never been a believer in Wisconsin. It is constantly the team that they play very well until they have to play real competition. And the Big Ten West does not present a lot of real competition to Wisconsin. And then I hate to go back a little bit, but I'm just because to squeeze this in there because Stein mentioned that BYU's schedule, they don't have any big people on the schedule. If any team has more gripes about getting missed out of the playoff because they didn't have a quality opponent, it's got to be BYU because they had 6 Power 5 opponents on their schedule pre-COVID. They had Utah, Michigan State, Arizona State, Minnesota, Missouri, and Stanford.
That's a great
schedule. That's a great schedule.
You can't blame them. You can't blame them at all for that. You know,
and it's going to be. I think BYU is going to be one of those great what if stories. It's going to be. I think they get left out because they didn't have any quality competition this year. But people are going to look at the stats. They're going to look at what I'm projecting will be an undefeated record, and they're going to go, "What if BYU had played this schedule this fall in a world without COVID? Would they be in the college football playoff, or would they have been exposed as frauds?" I mean, we'll just never know. And BYU probably is gonna like that. Honestly, they're probably gonna be thrilled to be able to latch on to the lost season of what could have been. Right?
Watch them claim a national championship. I mean, the national championship they already have is already kind of sketchy. They won a national title in the '80s after beating like a 6-loss Michigan in the Holiday Bowl. And they're like, I guess we're number 1. So that's just the BYU way. But
so where do you see? I mean, I'm looking at Cincinnati, like their schedule that they've played. Where do you see them fit in? Especially because I'm looking at their schedule and because they're in the American Conference, right? You kind of look at their schedule and you're like, okay, you beat up on Eastern Carolina and you had a really close game with UCF, but other than that, do we justify beating up on Houston, Memphis, Austin P, those kind of schools versus someone like an A&M or Northwestern or Florida, any of those? I guess Florida's going to have 2 losses probably.
Yeah, but the path for Cincinnati to get in the playoff is really simple to me. It's Notre Dame beats Clemson. Texas A&M loses to Auburn on the road, on the prairie. And then you have Florida lose to Alabama in the SEC championship, and that's it. That's all she wrote.
The Plains, not the prairie. Just
the Plains. Shoot, I don't know. I don't know the South, but
he's too used to Norman.
I guess so. Yeah. If that happens, I mean they're in. So I think it's simple for them. They do have to beat the powerhouse Tulsa Golden Hurricane twice in a row. They have to play them once in Tulsa and then play them again. And Tulsa, as we know, they find a way to pull victory out of their ass. And
call an ambulance, but not for me.
Tulsa is really the team. It's like if the Undertaker were a college football team in the group of 5 this year, it's Tulsa. Just every time I don't watch a lot of Tulsa games, obviously. I mean, not many people do. But you see the box score early in the evening, you're just like, well, looks like Tulsa's finally going to take that L. And then just you look at it at the end of the night, and you're just like, Tulsa came back again. What is this? Where's that coming from?
That last inning they had against Tulane, honestly, if you wrote it up as a screenplay, I'd say it was insanely unrealistic. Hail Mary, 40-yard bomb on 4th down, and then a pick 6 to win the game in overtime. That's ridiculous. Come on.
It just reminded me of our group text when I every time Texas just dug themselves into a hole, and I was like, "Oh wait, what? They're back!" And I just kept sending Undertaker gifs into there.
Oh my gosh,
it's not over yet.
Speaking of Texas, how are we feeling about the Big 12 championship here? Do we think UT has the right stuff to beat a red-hot Iowa State team on Friday?
I think they can. It really, as we've mentioned all the time, it kind of just it depends on what UT team we see, right? And I think knowing the history of Tom Herman and all that, they're looking at this number 13 Iowa State team, and I think it's going to be a really good game, and I think they're going to play it better than like when they have those sleepy games that they just don't show up for when you play, you know, like a Kansas or a Kansas State or something like that. So I think it's going to be a better. I'm not going to be able to see because I'm going to be in Costa Rica. No big deal. But I'm going to be at a resort drinking Mai Tais. But I think it's going to be a close game one way or the other. And obviously Texas's path is just win out and hope that, I mean, they'll just play Oklahoma again, honestly. It's probably how that would play out if they beat Iowa State because they'd have the head-to-head. They'd both be – actually, Iowa State would be 3-loss at that team. Texas is sitting at 3rd right now, Oklahoma at 2.
They only go with conference win-loss record, though. Iowa State lost to Louisiana, so in terms of conference calculation, they're only a 1-loss team.
Then Texas would still have the head-to-head. So Texas. So I mean, my point stands. Texas wins out. They'll play Oklahoma. Like that's it. You just replay Red River 2 Electric Boogaloo. That's it for them. I don't know how else to put it. That's all I got.
I mean, Texas is. I feel like they've been kind of floundering through the season. You know, they haven't looked very impressive in their wins. Other than even in Oklahoma State, which again, great win for the Horns on the road.
I'm sorry, Wilson, you're blurry. I can't even see you.
It doesn't matter if he's blurry or not. I'm just saying, like, Texas, like, it took, 4 or 5 turnovers for them to take that game to overtime?
Wrong.
How many overtime? Or how many picks? How many turnovers?
I don't know. I was at a restaurant watching.
Fair enough.
I had to turn around. It was on the TV, like, behind me.
There was a time you gave up on Texas. Then they came back.
And Wilson would like this. The TV, I had to keep turning around because I was watching the TCU Baylor game on my phone. That was my first priority at that table.
Just when they thought you were out, they pull you back in. That's how it goes. But look, I think this Texas team, very sloppy, but this is absolutely a dumb game. Tom Herman would would just find a way to win. So we'll see.
It does help it's in Austin. I'll say that because, like I always say, Ames, Kansas and Iowa scare me playing on the road. The two Kansas teams and Ames, they just scare me playing on the road.
Well, y'all both know that from your time as TCU guys. Well, I mean, one has always been a TCU guy. The other one, a little shaky, but what was it 2017? They snuck up and bit you. I mean, they bit us too in that year. So no judgment here at all. But it's spooky. It's spooky out there.
Ames, that siren's going off. It's cold. There's corn everywhere. There's red and yellow striped people.
Yeah. Normally it's a great home environment. I don't know how it is COVID. I know they've got fans, but
yeah, for sure. So let's talk about the state of the Frogs while we have y'all here. I
want to go back to Texas.
Do we want to go back to Texas?
Bobby, are you going to hurt me 2 times in a row?
I want to hear Wilson's take on Texas first. I'm sorry. I don't.
Boy, the longtime Texas hater gets to talk about it. Here we go.
I'm going to tell you guys that Bobby and I, obviously, we don't see eye to eye on everything. I'm not a big Oklahoma fan, but we agree on one thing. It's that the University of Texas sucks and is the most overrated college football program in America. And I will tell you guys this, that Texas is – I'm going to slap them with the fraud label. It's a big fat fraud of a football team.
Actually, I'm gonna correct you there because you have to be good to be a fraud.
What?
You heard it from the man himself. They're not good. They're not any good.
It's not like they came out. It's not like they came out like a top 5 ranked team. Like
they get hyped up every year by the media.
They're number 17 right now. It's like
media.
It's like they're pretty good. So it's not. Fraud would be Notre Dame if I'm just looking at Notre Dame's my fraud, as always. I always never believe in Notre Dame.
I'm looking at Texas's games this year.
Bobby, don't look at me like that. We all know when Clemson has Trevor Lawrence back, they're going to win by 21 over Notre Dame. Notre Dame's going to get slapped.
I'm speaking.
You're the guest.
I'm looking at Texas's schedule this year. They barely beat Texas Tech, who almost was upset at home by Houston Baptist. and they had to win in overtime, and they needed help from the refs. Then they lost to TCU, and you and I both know that TCU is a chaotic, just dysfunctional football program this year. They put up a good fight against Oklahoma. That's probably their best game of the year, and because it was a rivalry game. They beat Baylor the next week because Baylor is awful this year. They have taken a big step back in terms of talent and the loss of their coach. They somehow beat Oklahoma State. Based on what I saw in that one, there's little referee interference in that one as well. They beat West Virginia. I watched that one, and the refs really screwed over West Virginia several times in that game. The winning score by Texas, I believe there was an uncalled push off on that one. And now they're going to play Iowa State. And Iowa State, very good team. The only problem is if Texas – I hate to be this guy, but if Texas somehow beats Iowa State, it's going to be more a product of Iowa State playing down to their competition than it is a sign that Texas is actually a good football team. That's my take.
Okay. Any response there, Chris?
I think it's more about how the defense is going to show up because there are signs of life. Okay, Joseph Osai I think he was ranked one of the top edge rushers in college football. So there's signs on the D-line. The corners and everything are still really young. The safeties are really young. But they have – excuse me.
I'm sorry.
They have – not you, Wilson.
I apologize.
They have signs of life. They have a true freshman who's playing really well on the D-line. I'm not concerned about their offense. Their offense this year has been one of the better years in recent memory. It's really what their defense shows up. My biggest problem with them is not whether they're a good or bad team, like Wilson says, because he just has his biased hate. That's where that's coming from. But I think it's more an effort thing sometimes with them than it's really whether they're a good or bad team. Like some days they just show up and they just completely do not look ready to go. And then other times where you see like their bowl games when they've been coached up, like when they played Georgia and Utah, when they just look unstoppable and you're like, where was this all year? So I think part of it is more getting this Texas team to actually play consistently week to week. And they're on whatever you guys are saying about them floundering, they're on a 3-win streak. So we'll see what happens.
Well, look at those actual games, though. They floundered against a mediocre Baylor team.
They did not flounder. I watched a lot of that game.
Okay, fine, whatever.
They were solidly in control of that game. The whole game, there was no issue.
They should have smacked them. No, it's Baylor is one of the worst teams in the Big 12, bottom of the pack. And then they went and hey, OSU, good game. West Virginia, another struggle.
Hey, defense. West Virginia defense. That's what I get. And there are only 2 losses. TCU is in their head. I don't really know with that. TCU every year I was at that game. They just the past few years, actually even since we were freshmen, TCU has just been in the head of Texas, and I don't know how to fix that. And then OU's a rivalry game. So I think they're actually in a good spot. After Iowa State, they have 2 of the worst teams in the Big 12, and we'll see where they go from there.
Fair enough.
Okay, Stein, I have a question for you. Do you think Texas deserves to be ranked in the top 25?
Yes.
Based on what?
What have they done? What's
look at the other people in the top 25. You have some teams that have barely played at all from the Pac-12. You have a few Big 12 teams. You have Tulsa at number 25. Give me a break. You have
Tulsa some nail biter games.
Nail biters against like Tulane, okay? Not nail biters against anybody that's good.
Here,
and they're 25. You can't tell me, besides the Frogs game, Oklahoma we've learned is a little bit better than we thought at the very beginning of the year. They were figuring stuff out. That was a close game, and they beat Oklahoma State, who's kind of a fraud. That's a fraud because they were ranked like 6 when they beat them. But I think they're pretty much right about where they're going to be. And if they win out, maybe they're a 10 to 15, probably like 14, 15. I think that's very fair.
Well, it just seems weird that like Yeah, they beat Oklahoma State, but like,
I mean, Wilson, if it were up to you, you'd always rank them like number 300 out of all like 300 FBS teams.
No, I'm not surprised.
Texas
I'm telling you, they get put in the preseason rankings, top 25, every single season, and they don't deserve it.
That's what good teams. That's what good programs get the benefit of the doubt.
Talent every year cannot coach up those players. He has lost that locker room. He never had it. He's a disaster of a coach for Texas.
Okay, but Wilson, you can't argue with me that programs like Texas and all the Blue Bloods that are top 5 or whatever, all these good programs, they get the benefit of the doubt no matter what. They get ranked. I mean, Oklahoma started at 3.
Program. What have they done?
Okay, hold on.
They won a Sugar Bowl against a Georgia team.
That wasn't motivating.
No, I'm saying because of like their brand name and everything, they get the benefit of the doubt no matter what. If they're good, if they're not good. Oklahoma started at 3. Did any of us with a brand new quarterback actually expect them to come out of the gate as a number 3 team better than an Ohio State or a Clemson or any of them? No, I didn't at least. These teams get the benefit of the doubt no matter what. That's what good programs, they get to start there, and people kind of adjust as they see fit. It's not like everyone starts out of the 25 and then they wait to see them first and then they put them in.
Chris, here's the difference, though. Oklahoma has been in the college football playoff for 3 straight seasons. Texas is constantly, 5 losses and mediocrity. There's a difference to it.
But there's very clear logic. You can see they ended the year last year beating a number 11 Utah team who arguably
major fraud.
I don't disagree, but the facts are there. They beat a number 11 team, and they started this year at what, 9? I think that's a pretty fair. What they were looking at is Sam Ehlinger coming in his senior year, a really good offense, and building off a good bowl win. Obviously, it's not as good as they thought, but I think they're right about where they should be at 17. That's my point.
Sam Ehlinger is the poor man's Tim Tebow. That's my take on that.
I mean, he's a better passer of the football than Tim Tebow.
Texas football program, and he's still a poor man's Tim Tebow. I expect him to go somewhere in the 3rd or 4th round, maybe the 5th round.
3rd or 4th, that's a huge accomplishment for Sam Ehlinger.
Yes, exactly. That's his ceiling. That's his ceiling.
I didn't say he was a top NFL draft pick.
No one said.
I just said he's a senior and he's had one of the better seasons of any quarterback in the country right now. No one's actually talking about that, but. I mean, look at the stats, Wilson. You can smirk at me, but you can look at his touchdowns, his passing yards, everything.
That's because he's the entirety of their offense.
I mean, if you don't watch their games, clearly.
Look, Texas's biggest win this season outside of the UTEP game, we're not counting that. It was an 11-point win against Baylor. Come on. What are we doing here? What are we actually doing here? If we're talking from a point margin standpoint, it's silly. They're writing off of an Oklahoma State win. We clearly can tell Oklahoma State is not good. They practically gave the game to the Pokes, or the Pokes gave the game to them. And, hey, I'm just saying, I don't think Texas is that good. I think they're going to.
I didn't say they were that good. Number 17 isn't that good.
No, they're not 17.
I think coming full circle, I think they deserve to be in the top 25 when I'm looking at all these other teams.
Fair enough. I think we can.
Wilson said they don't even deserve to be in the top 25, and I think when you look at the teams that are in there, I think that's just wrong.
I think come the end of the season, looking at their schedule going forward, I think they lose to Iowa State this weekend. I think they might even lose this game on the road against Kansas State.
Kansas State beats. They lose to K-State because K-State is garbage now with their backup quarterback. He's bad.
Not in Kansas, though.
They're real bad, and then they'll probably lose to Kansas somehow.
I don't think they'll lose to Kansas. I mean,
Kansas is particularly bad.
You have to actively try to lose to Kansas right now.
It's bad.
Greg Miles has done nothing to alter the trajectory of that program.
Maybe he raised some money at least. So good on him for that. Let's move. I think we've chatted enough about UT here. Let's move on to the big leagues, the NFL. Guys, how are we feeling about the league? This has been a weird season. I feel like nobody really saw the Steelers being undefeated at 10-0 at this point. How far do you see the Steelers going here? I feel like nobody's really talking about them.
That depends on what their opponents do in practice during the week. We saw it with the Titans. They formulated the game plan for the Ravens on what to do. You start, I don't know, spitting in people's mouths when you're at practice or whatever. They're all getting COVID, so I don't know what they're teaching tackling wise at the Tennessee and Ravens facility, but all these teams are getting out of the way of the Steelers. And no, we did not see them at 10-0, but they're kind of getting screwed a little bit because their schedules are getting changed. They're getting these buys put in place. The 49ers had to still play through they're playing with a practice squad team right now. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's been a weird year.
And the Titans are frauds.
Wilson, I want you to rebut to that callous claim that the Titans are frauds.
Well, first I do want to talk about the Steelers, and I will say that it's a very surprisingly great team. I think they have a great stable of receivers for Big Ben to throw to, and Roethlisberger has clearly had a resurgence. There was a lot of talk about his offseason, how he kind of cleaned up his act and got himself together and got ready for this year. And I think it's paying dividends for the Steelers. And of course, their defense every year is always very good. And looking ahead at their schedule, of course, they have the Ravens on Sunday. I think they're probably going to win that one based on what I saw in the Titans-Ravens game. They have the Washington football team. I was trying to think of something more clever to call them, the R words or
football team works.
WFT.
Honestly, nothing funnier than football team. Football team is just too funny to me.
They have the Bills on the road that on Sunday night. That'll actually be Sunday night or Saturday or Monday night, but prime time. That'll be a great game. That'll be a great game. Steelers, Bills. That'll be the next biggest test for the Steelers team. Then they have Bengals. Don't see that being an issue with especially without Joe Burrow. And then they've got the Colts at home. The Colts are a great team, but they live or die by Phillip Rivers. And then they're on the road to the Browns. And the Browns are really they're really punching above their weight right now. And surely by that game, it's going to be obvious to everyone. So, I mean, this Steelers team is going to be the AFC North division winner. I think that is very clear at this point.
It might be the AFC number one.
They're probably going to bye in the playoffs, honestly. Well, actually, hang on. They changed the format, so there's three.
There's only one bye.
So it'll probably be either them or the Chiefs if the Chiefs can catch up, but we'll see what happens.
At this point, it's just a matter of you're running out of games to catch up in that regular season. And we can debate on who will actually win the AFC Championship because I think when it gets down to it, I think we are destined for a Chiefs-Steelers matchup in the AFC Championship, which I'm very intrigued about because it's really just a battle of styles to me. You got the irresistible Chiefs versus, the immovable Steelers. And I think that is that's perfect football theater for you right there.
I have a question. How would it come down to, say, Steelers lose to the Bills, right? Them and the Chiefs both have one loss. They're both trying to get into one spot. They haven't played head-to-head. Do they go to – their conference record would be the same. They'd have one loss in their – or no, take that back. I think Steelers would still be number one even if they had a loss because it wouldn't have been to a conference loss. I think the Steelers are in a really good spot. So, even if they lost to the Bills, they would be undefeated in their conference.
I mean, being undefeated in general is the best spot you can have it down.
What?
Bills are AFC.
No, sorry, not conference, division. I think they go to division record is what I meant. And they'd be undefeated in division record against Kansas City has a loss in their division.
So I'm
to the Raiders.
This is NFL's website, just so we're clear. Division champion best record, division champion second best record. Wait. Let me scroll down. Sorry. Break time. Come back to me.
It's definitely division, I think, is the third thing they look at. But the AFC, honestly, Bobby, it's so much the way I see it. There's a few. First of all, it's a lot deeper than the NFC. I think they just have a lot more good teams. The NFC's got a lot more ambiguity, like not as much teams at the top and then everybody. It's just a lot of clouded jumble going around. But after the Steelers and the Chiefs, I think it's really tough going for whoever's going to be the wild cards in the AFC, because like at the end of the day, even if you do really well, you have these two giants you're going to have to go up eventually. And I think the AFC has a lot more clarity, where we're going to see the number 1 or number 2 seeds. They're going to for sure play in the AFC Championship, right? I don't see really any upsets going forward.
Okay, so I'm going to assume there's not something for determining the 1 to 2 seed that I can see immediately on the NFL website, but for 2 clubs for the wild card team, it head-to-head is first. Then the best win-loss tied percentage in games within the conference. Then best won-loss tied percentage in common games, minimum of 4. I don't know which common games Steelers and Chiefs have this year. I know the Bills is one of them.
Ravens.
But
they would have 2 Ravens games to go off for the Steelers, which would be tough.
Right. Texans. They both beat the Texans. Broncos, Steelers beat the Broncos, and I think the Chiefs beat the Broncos. So, I mean, this is going to be really tough. The next one was strength of victory. So I guess it would just be margin of victory in each game kind of tabulated. So if strength of victory comes into play, I have not run the numbers on that. Clearly, you've got the Steelers with a much better defense, and then the Chiefs that run up the score, but they still played a lot of close games this year. It's going to be down to the wire who's 1 to 2 seed if they both, have one loss going into the playoffs.
Yeah, and that, there's so much football left to play, and I'm really excited to see how it pans out. Steelers definitely have the edge right now, but I don't know. The idea of seeing them play in a AFC championship is super exciting to me. But as we know with football, it never plays out the way you think it will. So this AFC race is going to be exciting because you could see a weird team like the Bills get involved. I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of variance this year that could really make things interesting. Let's move over to the NFC. How are we feeling about your Seahawks, Stein?
I'm feeling better than I was, and here's why. 1, their defense showed me something that they got a little spice in them that they haven't had. Here's me. God,
I'm sorry, man. I'm without my headphones. It's a tough time.
And here's the thing. I don't actually think, hot take here, that the Seahawks defense is quite as bad as everyone thinks, and here's why. I've watched a lot of their games, and there have been quite a few games where the Seahawks like to play this game like, let's get ahead and then scare all of our fans by just going asleep in the third quarter and just going, like, getting their head out of the game, and then suddenly they're like, oh, wait, this is actually a close game. There's only been one game that I've seen where the Seahawks have actually used a victory formation, no issues, maybe 2 games, this last Cardinals game and one other, where it's like there hasn't been a last-second drive from either side to do something. So I think a lot of it has been garbage yards, to be fair. But what also really helps them is, besides they have one more game against the Rams, which they might win that one, and a 49ers team, which is just like everyone's dead on that team. Besides that, they get 3 NFC East games. They get the Giants, the Jets, and the Washington football team. That's who they have left to play. So they have a really good chance to just go down the stretch, get fine-tuned. We'll get to see they'll play the Eagles this week on Monday Night Football, then the Giants. Then I'm sorry. They have 4 remaining NFC East teams. They have the Eagles, Giants, Jets, Washington, and then 2 division games. So they have a chance this 4-game stretch to really get the defense tuned up, get the offense back to the way it was looking at the beginning of the season, get some confidence building. So I think they go at least 4-0 in this stretch, and they'll be 11-3. And I really think what's different from last year is they need to win at the end of the season. Last year, I don't know if you guys paid attention, but they had 2 losses, and then they lost. Like, they were 1-3 in their last 4 games of the season last year. And so I think when you're going into the playoffs, when you've been losing a bunch of games, is not a good recipe for the playoffs. So the chance for them to have a good back half of the season really bodes well for how their playoff stretch is going to go.
I think that's fair. Yeah, I mean, it's just there's a lot to it, and you got to finish strong. That's what it boils down to. I think their win over the Cardinals was a huge step towards that. Because the Cardinals have taken a massive step, and beating a solid division foe like that, that bodes well for the Seahawks. But overall, looking at the NFC picture, who do we feel like is in pole position here? Wilson, I'll let you start.
I mean, if I have to pick a team that's really in pole position, I mean, it's so weird. I didn't think I would be saying this, but it's the Saints. I mean, clearly they're the ones that are in the lead. They're the only 8-2 team in the NFC. And the way they started the season, I had lots of doubts. I was surprised that I'd even be saying this. And I'm not even saying this. I don't even think the Saints are the best team in the NFC necessarily. But they're a team that finds ways to win games. And even without Drew Brees, they're still going to be ticking along. They're going to be close games, but it's a team that just always knows how to find a way to win. And it's something you got to admire about them for sure. I think Sean Payton is a great coach, and they really benefit from that. And I think the Saints defense is finally starting to look like the unit it was last year.
Absolutely. Yeah, I just it's very, very intriguing how that Saints team is really looking because they're clicking. They're blowing teams out. They're looking solid, even with the issues of Drew Brees, which weirdly enough might be helping them. Because Brees is, the old gray mare, she ain't what she used to be, I got to say. At this point, just I think putting in Jameis might not be an awful idea.
We want to see it. I want to see it.
Michael Thomas, but
yeah, didn't Jameis get contacts though? So he's good now.
He got LASIK.
Oh, it's over.
He's tuned up. It's ready to go.
LASIK should be an NFL MVP.
He's skinny now. He's ready to go.
Yeah, which I gotta say, getting skinnier after moving to New Orleans, that's a feat of nature.
That itself is alone worthy of the MVP award.
Absolutely. So, always good talking about NFL. I don't know if we should talk about college basketball because honestly, I think that's just a disaster right now in terms of cancellations. If you really think about it, just think about Texas A&M. They haven't played in 2 weeks because of COVID. Now, for football, obviously, that's just 2 games. But for basketball, that could be anywhere up to 4 or 5 games. That can decimate a season. So we'll see how college basketball plays out. Obviously, happy to see basketball back in action, but I'm really not feeling like it's a super viable thing right now.
What is your rapid fire if you had to? We're all Big 12 guys here. So if you had to think about who's going to be on top of the Big 12 this year, what are the tiers for you?
Well, I think you obviously have to. It's got to be Kansas at the top, just because it's Kansas.
I think Baylor's good this year, right?
Baylor's fantastic as well. I think it's probably Baylor, Kansas. I know Stein thinks I'm a big college basketball guy. I haven't really caught up with it in a while. I kind of forgot it existed for a little bit. I think Texas Tech, very solid program there. They could definitely be up there. It's going to be a dogfight. Frankly, it's going to be a dogfight. Kansas State's the only truly garbage team. Oklahoma State got better with Cade Cunningham coming in, but even they've looked shaky. Very rough game against UT Arlington today. Oklahoma's not bad. They got a lot of veterancy right there. TCU might be a little bit on the lower side.
Yeah, this TCU team it's very young right now. A lot of talent. Jamie Dixon is a good coach, but maybe not a great coach as he used to be in the past. This is a TCU team that I think they win most of their out-of-conference games. Assuming we get a regular style of conference play, they will probably be towards the middle, maybe the lower middle part of the pack, only because of the lack of experience. I think Kevin Samuel and RJ Nembhard are probably the most experienced guys on the team in their juniors.
For
everyone
sure.
else is a freshman or sophomore.
Hey, speaking of TCU, Kendrick Williams, member of the Oklahoma City Thunder. Let's go.
Kenny Hustle, enjoy him. If he ever gets any minutes, you're gonna love him when he's out there.
I'm hoping
better than most other players.
Hoping he stays on the roster for sure. Sorry to cut you off there.
No, absolutely. Yeah, Rich Williams, Kenny Hustle, TCU fans now.
And then Texas, they'll be very good as well. Shaka Smart's boys got them going for sure. So Chris doesn't even care.
All I heard was that they have one really good recruit, but so they'll have like enough talent to kind of move and shake a little bit. But what I heard is compared to all the teams at the top, they make an NCAA, but like there's really not much after that.
The Big 12's a absolute bloodbath. It's a fist fight. It's a mess. So we'll see how that goes. I'm excited to see how it pans out for sure. But yeah.
This might be a good part while we're still at the tail end of college basketball. Is shout out to Desmond Bain from TCU. He's the first TCU player to be drafted in the first round of the NBA draft since Kurt Thomas in the 90s.
Yeah.
He went to the Memphis Grizzlies, and the last time we were together, we were talking about potential expansion franchises we would like for our hometowns, and we were talking about NBA and the Memphis Grizzlies and why Nashville probably wouldn't get an NBA team because of that. It's going to be hard to not cheer for Desmond Bain. He's a class act, a great player, excellent shooter. I might have to hop on the Grizzlies bandwagon.
Well, plus Memphis has some nice ass jerseys too, so that helps. That helps with it. Yeah, for sure. So hey, Desmond Bain, and not only that, just the name Bain on the back of a jersey. That's pretty cool. So, good stuff in college basketball. I'm excited for it. I hope everything goes very smoothly there. Let's move in. Do we have any like good little nuggets of history here? I'm just looking through a sheet.
Wilson, I don't remember exactly. Wilson, weren't you saying like, oh, should I bring this up? Blah blah blah. Like last time with A&M and Rice and the straw owl thing.
Well,
like, didn't you have some other story on deck?
I didn't have something specific then, but I did a little thinking today.
Of course he did. He knew this section was coming up.
I did see something by chance that I thought was really interesting when I was looking at stuff. So, one TCU running back who I am a big fan of historically for TCU is Jim Swink. He was a two-time All-American known as the Rusk Rambler. He played for TCU. Won them consecutive conference championships in the old Southwest Conference in 1955 and 1956. Both times they went to the Cotton Bowl. And he was an incredible athlete. And one of his big games was in 1955, the Texas Longhorns TCU game that year. And in the 50s, it was kind of prior to recent history, the 50s were probably the last time that the Texas TCU games were competitive back and forth affairs. And the Texas cheerleaders decided that in preparation for the game and getting the students fired up, they created Hook 'em Horns, both the slogan and the hand gesture, in reference to their defense was going to hook Jim Swink and keep him from, dominating the game. And this is something I didn't think I ever realized before. But you look at that game and Jim Swink rushed only 15 times for 235 yards and scored 26 points in a 47-20 demolishment of Texas.
All right, goodbye. I'll see you guys.
Clearly, Hook 'em Horns didn't win firing up the Texas faithful, but it was the creation of Hook 'em Horns. Part of Jim Swink's legend as a TCU football player. And Jim Swink actually, he was drafted in the NFL by the Bears in round 2, said no, and went to medical school instead. Ended up being an orthopedic surgeon, but he served in the military in Vietnam as a field surgeon. He won a Purple Heart and a Bronze Star while he was there. I mean, the man is a great story. Honestly, an incredible paragon of TCU football lore. And I wish his accomplishments were recognized more by the university and the student body.
I mean, yeah, that is. I never knew that. That's a remarkable story, and I think it should be noted that both Texas and Texas A&M's hand signals, all inspired by TCU, apparently. Gigamags and Hook'em horns. Wow, that's impressive. TCU, truly the top dog in the state of Texas.
Yeah, prior to the 50s, anyways.
Yeah,
in modern day, yeah, we have the winningest.
That is Wilson's modern day.
Coming down, but yeah, clearly teams did not like losing to TCU back in the day, right?
Still 1953 for Wilson.
Clearly the game everyone had circled for sure. Oh my gosh. Stein, moving on to our next segment. You got anything good for us in the world of sports business?
The complete reversal of Wilson. What's new and going on, not the steam engine. All right.
What's new in hand signals for universities?
Well, this was 2 months ago. I just saw this, but I think it's a really good omen. I know people probably think I talk too much NFL, I guess, but I didn't realize the Jets actually. It's the Jets, but they opened a specific studio, overlooking their practice facility. I think where they can do shows on sports betting and stuff. It's called the BetMGM Studio. And so it's part of, they have a new partnership with MGM Resorts, it looks like. And I think this is just a good step forward for sports betting because I'm still waiting for, it looks like it's state to state by now because New Jersey's a little bit ahead of everybody else. But I'm just waiting for sports betting to really just hit nationwide. And I've been saying this all along, but I've been waiting for the Raiders. I wish they would have more in-stadium stuff there. I don't know exactly what they have yet, but obviously they need to take advantage of all the Vegas stuff. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I think if you're in Vegas, you just play up Vegas. You have so much awesome stuff in that town.
Yeah, I saw they were going to do maybe a rideshare drop-off area that was sponsored by Caesars or so-and-so, but I think they really need to go full tilt. I think they're still just waiting what the state of Nevada wants to do, but
if I had to guess on what the issue for the Raiders is it has more to do with the NFL itself and protecting the shield, because the issue for the Las Vegas Golden Knights when they were starting out is the NHL basically told them you're not allowed to name your team after anything related to gambling. You can't be. They don't want.
That seems weird to me though, because the NHL has been at the forefront of betting, like with the NBA. Those two have been more than anybody.
Yeah, there is something about it when it comes to the team names, the kind of the very in your face stuff that because they still want to make sure that these sports environments are family friendly. They don't want gambling highlighted, I think, and associated with the brand of the league itself.
I don't know, Wilson. The Vegas Golden Knights have the William Hill line change.
It's a sponsor.
It's
a sponsor, but as far as things that are core to the brand, I think they
Wilson, where do you think this is all sponsorship? What do you
stadium stuff?
It's all sponsorship, Wilson. They don't just slap a resort or casino's name on there just because they get money out of it.
No, I understand what sponsorship is. I was just saying it has to do with sponsorships come and go, and some things are a lot more either they're tied to the franchise itself or it's a big part of the in-game experience. And if you make gambling a big part of that in-game experience, I think that's something right now that the NFL and the NHL and other sports leagues will shy away from.
Totally disagree.
Come into the more mainstream.
Totally disagree.
I think they still be family friendly.
Totally disagree.
I think they're okay to implement gambling, but having a team be so gambly based, I think they're still a little wary of.
Wilson, here's where I disagree. They're not going to be called the Oakland Bellagio or the Vegas Bellagio Raiders or something. They're not going to make it that crazy, but the teams are definitely going to have this is just going to happen. I can tell you They're going to have spaces in their stadiums and arenas that are specific. You go there to gamble, like a club or a suite area. You go there, you gamble. There's machines and like touchscreen stuff you can go and gamble on and drink. And like that's going to happen. And that's going to be part of the in-stadium, in-arena experience.
And I'm not arguing against it. I'm just saying I think that's the way that like it's going to be a slow change to get there. It honestly, like I think we're taking long enough to be there already. But
fair enough. Fair enough.
I think the next year or two, it's really exploding. Personally,
it really, really, honestly should, because it's a massive moneymaker. I think it's starting to be destigmatized, as we've seen. You know, obviously legalized in a sense. You know, across the United States, where it's a state option now, and we've seen it in media. You know, ESPN will talk about lines now.
Wilson, Barstool Sportsbook's coming to Nashville.
Oh, tasty treat. That'll be fun.
I have a little inside news on that.
Oh, okay. A little breaking news. Hopefully, Portnoy doesn't come and break Rival Talk in half right after
I don't think he cares about Rival Talk, but
probably not.
I will tell you, Wilson, Ballin, the guy you know, I'm pretty sure him and the whatever that visitor and convention corps is for Nashville, they've met with Erica Nardini a few times.
Pretty cool.
So
pretty cool.
They're definitely I don't know where the state of Tennessee is as far as legislation goes, but I've heard Barstool Sportsbook really wants to come to Nashville too.
Sports gambling is now legal here.
There you go.
Opening casinos, unless there was a ballot measure that I was not aware of, there's no good movement on that. But
Nash Vegas.
Sportsbooks. But anyways, let's wrap this one up because we are recording the night before Thanksgiving. I'm going to ask you, Wilson, what are you most thankful for sports-wise right now?
Well, TCU Horned Frogs football has been doing me dirty this fall. All of the worst things in that department. I hope Gary Patterson cleans house on the offensive side of the ball, and it makes me thankful for them next year. But honestly, and without the NHL going till presumably January at the earliest, there's no Predators to be thankful for. They put in a really sorry showing in the NHL bubble playoffs. They didn't even make it into the proper playoffs. They lost to the freaking Arizona Coyotes. So the only team I'm thankful for this year is the Tennessee Titans. They have had one of their best years in recent memory, probably since Chris Johnson was the star of the show. I mean, they've been on a downward trend the last few weeks. But this is a team where I look at the way they play in these games, and they have a lot more fight to them than the teams that I've seen this past decade. I mean, the teams of the past decade used to give up and just get destroyed in these kind of games where they started to get down. But we saw it in this Ravens game. This Tennessee team, I think the way Mike Vrabel coaches them, I think the way that we have a younger crop of players in general that weren't part of those losing teams, they just have a different level of motivation and drive. They don't give up on games like they used to. And I don't know what our fates will be. I think sitting at 7-3, our playoff hopes are pretty good. We just have to take care of business and exercise our demons against the Colts this week. And I could see Tennessee making some more noise in the playoffs this year. I don't necessarily see them as Super Bowl contenders, but this is one of the most fun Tennessee Titans teams to watch in recent memory. So I'm thankful for that.
There you go. Hey, Titans, they obviously fantastic run last year. So keeping it up.
Titans fun to watch. Breaking news.
Hey man, Titans minus the ANS. Let's go. All right, Chris, what are you most thankful for sports wise as we enter this time of Thanksgiving?
Well, conversely to Wilson, for an actual good team, the Seattle Seahawks, because they also they have a very good stretch coming down at the end of the season. I think depending on what Green Bay does, they'll be first or second seed in the NFC. And I mean, mostly I'm just thankful for them because of the way the other teams I cheer for are performing. Texas, I don't know what to believe. TCU is awful. I'd given up all hope on them. Anaheim Ducks are awful. The Mariners are awful. Everyone's awful. So the Seahawks are my only hope. So that's what I'm thankful for. What about you, Bobby?
Oh, I'm thankful. Well, look, I'm thankful for Ramondre Stevenson and Ronnie Perkins for making Oklahoma a respectable football team again, of course. For sure, OU is looking great. They're looking crisp. Hopefully going to get in a very good spot in the New Year's Six Bowl. CFP, obviously, probably a bit out of reach. But I think the thing I'm most thankful for is Sam Presti, for giving us a boatload of picks for the future, giving us a cornucopia of future options, so to say. I'm looking forward to the future. I'm pumped. Makes college basketball a little more interested to be watching because you never know. Some of these guys might be a Thunder one day. So if I had to pick one, I'm going to go with Presti just because I love the bounty of picks. I'm pretty happy about it. Ready for the future.
Even though he gave away Dennis Schroeder for nothing?
Not really nothing. I know that trade's been poo-pooed a bit, but let's be real.
Yeah, I was really curious to hear your side of it because everyone else I heard talk about it really said the Lakers just hosed you guys. Which is understandable if you are looking at what talent we got back, which we got none. We just got picks, which I'm okay with. Keep in mind, we got Dennis Schroeder as a cap dump for Carmelo Anthony. Like we traded Carmelo to the Hawks, who were just immediately going to cut him. And they said they're like, hey, you can have this Schroeder guy. We don't want him anymore. And then he's like an 18-point guy.
Yeah, he should have been the sixth man of the year. So we flipped literal garbage for a sixth man of the year candidate who turned out to be a very, very good viable player here. So and brought us back 2 picks. And Danny Green, who we flipped for more picks. So I'm very, very, very okay with that. So that's my piece on the Thunder there. So anyways, that's all we have to say, I think. But it's good to be back. This was fun.
Next time it'll just be Bobby and I.
Well, you can bring me back because I think Stein had some comments to say about the Titans, and I'd be happy to pontificate on that.
Wilson, you're always welcome here to defend your beloved Titans. So.
We need to talk to Derrick Henry's hairstylist. That's all I have to say.
Fair enough.
No, I think as long as he keeps winning games and leading the league in rushing, he can do whatever he wants.
By volume. It's because of the volume.
Yeah, for sure. Well, for me, Wilson and Stein, this has been Rival Talk. We look to do more of these in the future. Keep it up. So thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time. Have a good one. Happy Thanksgiving.